6:15 now. Well, furry friends are out of shelters and cuddling up to Winnipeggers this winter. Winnipeg Animal Services Doggy Date program is continuing this holiday season. If you've never heard, the program lets you take a dog home for up to 1 week. It's a small step for pet lovers who aren't ready to adopt just yet. Zoe Austin is the general manager at Winnipeg's Animal Services Agency. She's here with her dog, Lemon. Lemon was a part of the Doggy Date program before Zoe adopted her. I want to say a very warm good morning to both you and Lemon. Thank you so much for being here, Zoe.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
So why are the holidays such an important time for doggy dates?
Right. So the shelter environment is stressful. No matter what you do within that environment, it's still a shelter. So over the holidays, we have a little bit less staff. You'll see if you come into Winnipeg Animal Services during the day, you'll see clerical staff, you'll see managers, you'll see all kinds of people with a dog at their desk or a dog in their office. That happens a little less over the holidays. We have a little fewer volunteers because they have their own family things. They're great and they give us so much of their time, but a little less of that over the holidays. So we'd love to get these animals out of the shelter into a home environment so that they can have a good holiday season as well.
And we're looking at some footage here of Lemon, who is live in studio with us, an absolute sweetheart, by the way. Take us back, the history of the Doggy Dates program. How did that start at Animal Services?
Doggy Dates started in 2018, so it's been a pretty long-running program. Our staff just thought, what a great idea to bring these dogs out into the community, make sure that community members can participate in the important work that Animal Services does. And then through Doggy Dates, we get to know a little bit more about who the dog is outside of the environment that's very stressful that they're in.
Mm-hmm. So what are their attitudes like before they go on the doggy dates and after they've had an opportunity to go out on one?
It's amazing. So we'll have a dog who's either really wound up in shelter, who's showing us all kinds of behaviors that maybe aren't desirable in a home. We send them out with a member of the community and they come back and they say, this dog is absolutely perfect in a home. Or we'll have a dog who's stressed out and a little bit more mellow and they get out in the community and their personality is allowed to really shine. So we hear all kinds of feedback from our doggy daters that's so valuable in terms of getting the dog adopted and knowing who they truly are.
So who would be a good fit for this program? Who could possibly take one of the dogs out on a date?
Marjorie, we have a dog for just about anyone. We have Honey right now, who's a 3-legged dog. If you want a dog with 3 legs, we got her. We have more relaxed dogs. We have more high energy dogs. Sometimes we even have small dogs for doggy dates. We have senior dogs. There really is a doggy date dog for just about any level of dog experience, whether you're a first time doggy dater or whether you're a seasoned pro.
So is it like a date where you might find a match, like, someone who has a certain kind, or a dog with a certain kind of temperament with someone who maybe has experience or not that much experience when it comes to dogs?
I'll give a shout out to our very talented staff on this one. They are very good matchmakers. Some of these doggy dates that they set up end up being long-term relationships and turn into adoptions because they're so good at it. So we do a little bit of a screening when people come in, just find out what their level of dog experience is, what they're looking for out of the experience with us, and then we send them out with the best dog for them.
Do you have a story? I know you've probably talked to so many people that have been part of this program, that have taken part in this program. Do you have a story of a dog and a person that kind of matched perfectly and ended up finding their forever home?
Absolutely, yeah. Some of our doggy daters come in because they're just not ready for another dog. Some of them have lost their long-time companion. So we had a gentleman who came in who was really upset at having lost his own dog. He was not ready at all. The very first dog we matched him with, he came back into the shelter. He said, there's no way this dog is coming back to you guys. This is my dog.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Now, Zoe, if people are interested, where do they need to go? What do they need to do to set up a date?
Yeah, we're located at 1057 Logan Avenue. The best way to do doggy dates, because it's first come, first serve, so who we have available, you can come and get. So 1057 Logan, between the hours of 12 and 5:30. That's when we do doggy dates. They just come down, we do a quick painless screening, find out what they need from us and what we need from them, do their match, and off they go.
Well, Zoe, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Lemon, thank you so much for being here too. Lemon is a sweetheart, by the way. That was Zoe Austin and Lemon. Zoe's the general manager at Winnipeg's Animal Services Agency. If a dog-filled holiday interests you, visit the Animal Services Agency at 1057 Logan Avenue and speak to the staff. Big changes could be coming for North America's trade landscape. The U.S. is considering negotiating separate trade deals with Mexico and Canada. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer says the two countries are very different economically. With the 2026 review of CUSMA coming up, all options are on the table. For more, we've reached Moshe Lander. He is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Moshe.
Good morning.
Let's start with some background here. How does Canada benefit from being in a trilateral agreement with both the U.S. and Mexico?
So I'm going to give you a bad analogy to start off your Friday morning here. It's like having friends. If you have only one friend, then if they're busy on a Friday night, you're going to have a very lonely Friday night experience. But if you have two friends and one of them's busy, you can always go to the other one and say, hey, why don't we do something? And so when we moved from the original Canada-US free trade agreement and brought Mexico into NAFTA, now CUSMA, it gave us options. It gave us more friends. It gave us the ability to say, if we don't want to buy something from the Americans, maybe the Mexicans would be willing to provide it. And similarly, the Mexicans would view Canada in the same way that if they don't want to go to the US, they have Canada that might be able to produce something. And of course, the Americans saw the advantage in having two partners instead of just one. So it allowed us to diversify our economies more than they otherwise would. That provides greater choice, options, lower costs for consumers. It was benefits all around for the overall economies. And it might be surprising to realize that Mexico is now Canada's third largest trade partner after the slam dunks of the US and China.
Now, Moshe, if the U.S. were to go ahead with these separate deals with Canada and Mexico, what would that mean for Canada?
It's a lot of trouble for Canada then, because if they're going to negotiate with us bilaterally, then we're going to have to negotiate bilaterally with Mexico to try and hold together some sort of North American free trade arrangement. I'm not even going to say an agreement anymore. It's merely an arrangement that we have. That adds to the cost then, because if we have a different arrangement with the US than we have with Mexico, what's a Canadian producer supposed to do? It's like having instructions in one language to deal with the Americans and in a different language to deal with the Mexicans. And I'm not talking about English and Spanish. I'm just talking about that the way that you need to tool your operations, or the way that you need to worry about distribution channels, or even how you're going to get products to market is going to be different. And so that makes it more confusing for businesses. Businesses tend to scale back when there's uncertainty or when there's confusion. They don't like it. And that means then that consumers end up having to pay higher prices and have less diversity of choice. So it's really not a path that we want to go down. In terms of the negotiating itself, the American economy is 12 times our size. Their population is 10 times ours. They have a huge amount of leverage then in being able to dictate what the terms are going to be. Not that Canada and Mexico could gang up on the US, but they could maybe rein in some of their worst excesses.
Would there be any kind of advantages here, or is Canada just mostly going to be facing challenges if this were to happen?
Yeah, Canada doesn't have any real leverage. We saw in the first Trump administration that we tried to use targeted tariffs to get them back to the negotiating table in terms of backing away from the original tariffs that they inflicted on us 5 years ago. But the difference between now and then is now Congress is much more MAGA Republican than mainstream Republican. And so there's really nobody that's kind of holding back Donald Trump's worst excesses. The other difference is that those were meant as short-term strategic tactical moves rather than long-term strategy. And so I don't think that Canada is going to have any real levers that they can pull if they're just negotiating with the US. The Americans can say that while we need you, Canada, you need us more. And so that gives them leverage then in terms of how they can deal with us.
So, how does Canada prepare now for all this uncertainty?
We've already started to see it happening. A lot of 2025 has been devoted to preparing for what might come. Donald Trump has flip-flopped on every major social and political and economics issue in the last 40 years, going back to his time as a property mogul. The one thing, though, that he's been consistent on is he does not like free trade. So the moment that he was reelected, Canadian government, whether it was Trudeau or now Carney, realized we got to start preparing. And so if you looked at a lot of those major infrastructure projects that are fast tracking their way through the government process, it's meant to try and reorient Canada towards a more east-west than north-south alignment. Part of it is to try and pursue export markets beyond just the US. But part of it is realizing that if we want to maintain that strong trade relationship that we built up with Mexico, and if we're going to have to go through it bilaterally, we're not going to be able to transport goods across the US anymore because they would subject them to tariffs, taxes, quotas, or any other sorts of trade restrictions. We're going to have to deal with the ports of Vancouver, Montreal, and Halifax to get things down to Mexico. So I think we're starting to move that way. Businesses have clearly realized that they need to be less reliant on the US. And Canadian consumers, once they got past the emotion of elbows up, have realized that, hey, we can still buy things from the US, but maybe best to see if anybody else is offering the same sorts of goods at a comparable price.
Moshe, finally, could Kuzma stay mostly as it is despite these separate deal talks?
So, despite all of my doomsaying for the last 5 minutes, there is the possibility that this is nothing more than just a negotiating tactic. It's meant to scare everybody and keep everybody at the table and give the Americans the ability to keep CUSMA intact, but with a bit of an American spin on it that maybe tilts a little more in their favor than Canada and Mexico's favor. So, it is possible that everything holds together here. We might just have to make some concessions that some of these tariffs that we've seen in 2025 become part of the permanent landscape of ongoing CUSMA. But the main idea remains intact, that North America should be integrated mostly as one basic consumer market with as minimal tariffs as possible that the White House is willing to tolerate.
Moshe, thank you so much for joining us today here on the show.
Anytime.
Moshe Lander is a senior lecturer in the Department of Economics at Concordia University. The holidays are different for everyone, but for parents, it's hard to escape feeling a touch hemmed in by all of it, especially when it comes to gifts. Who gets them? Who gives them? And to who? It sometimes must feel a bit like a list that only grows and never shrinks, from friends to schoolmates, teachers, caregivers, and of course, family. For some advice, we've got S. Bear Bergman with us this morning. He is a father of 3 and author of Special Topics in Being a Parent, a Queer and Tender Guide to Things I've Learned About Parenting, Mostly the Hard Way. And Bear is in our Regina studio. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Let's start with you. What's your overall take on kids and giving gifts this holiday season?
I mean, I'm stressed out about shopping, as I think every other parent I know is also stressed out about the shopping. We're worried about, can we buy enough gifts? Did we buy too many gifts? Are they the right gifts? And I think that's very reasonable. We're all being marketed to 24 hours a day right now that the way to show your love is spend more money. But here's the thing. When I talk to adults about their favorite childhood memories of the holidays, they're almost never about the gifts. People's favorite memories fall basically into 2 categories. And one of them is friends and family they got to spend a lot of time with, especially people they don't see a lot, and all the extra dessert that they got to eat, or at a time that they wouldn't usually get to eat it. And so if you're feeling stressed out about the presents, I just want to say, for $5, get your kids up early, bake a cake with them, let them eat it for breakfast. Guaranteed you've got a great holiday memory.
I love that idea. So, Bear, how did you navigate everything? What have you done in the past that has worked really well?
So we accidentally figured this out. I feel like I need to say this. I was not smart. I was just lucky in this regard. But I really thought before we had children that we were going to be a family that wrote thank you notes for presents. That did not happen. But I was always sort of thinking about the thank you process. And so a few days after a holiday or a birthday, I'd get the kids to get their new presents out. I would take pictures of them wearing the thing or using the thing. I'd ask them, what do you like about the art set that Nana and Grandpa sent you? And they'd say, oh, it's got a lot of colors, and I didn't know oil pastels were so cool. Sometimes I would text them the pictures and the notes, or sometimes I'd use one of those, internet postcard services that mails a physical thing. But what I eventually figured out is that we were getting this incredibly nice echo of the holiday or the birthday after the frenzy of unwrapping was done, that really was letting the kids connect to the idea that, oh, all these people love them and thought about them and picked stuff out and brought it over or sent it. And it gave us this sort of this really nice moment where the holiday felt longer. And I realize this sounds cheesy, but I'm not afraid of it. Also deeper. And I love it. It's really nice.
This can be a very stressful time of the year. For parents, you've got so much going on. There's the family and everything to think of and everything. So what are some of the tips that you have if parents are feeling really overwhelmed?
I mean, one thing I would just like to say is that it is great to thank the teachers and the leaders and the coaches and the next door neighbor who shovels your walk and the postal carrier, but there is no rule that you have to do that in December. Right? Put it on the calendar for March. Do it for St. Patrick's Day. Write a little note that says, we're so lucky to have you in our lives. Nobody's going to be mad about a leprechaun-shaped cookie instead of a snowflake-shaped cookie. You can just do that later. That's one thing. And the other thing, dads, men, hello, I'm talking directly to you now. Like, dads, we have got to get in the game here. And I think that there's a lot of sweetness and excitement available in sitting down and making lists with your kids of everyone you want to buy gifts for and then taking them to do the shopping. But this has to be the last generation of moms who don't get anything in their stocking or who only get one gift or who spend the whole holiday season so overwhelmed by everything there is to do that they can't enjoy it. Right? Like, dads, it's time for us to get off the bench if we're not really participating in all the holiday stuff, figure out what we can do and go do it. There's a lot of fun to be had. This is a great way to, get started, and it really helps to sort of spread that sense of overwhelm out so everyone can enjoy the holidays a little bit more.
Oh, Bear, some great stories and tips in there. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a happy holidays.
Thanks so much. You too.
Take care. Bear Bergman is a father of 3 and author of Special Topics in Being a Parent, a queer and tender guide to things I've learned about parenting, mostly the hard way. It has already been quite a year in federal politics in this country, a new prime minister, and very competitive federal election this past spring. Still, 2025 seems to be going out with a bang. Another Conservative member of Parliament has announced he's crossing the floor to join the Liberal benches in the House of Commons. Michael Maw was elected an MP for the first time in April in the riding of Markham-Unionville. In a statement, he wrote he made the decision after listening to his constituents. And with that, you could say it may be shaping up to be a very Merry Christmas for Mark Carney. For more on this unfolding story, we have reached Alex Ballingal. He is a Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay. This happened late yesterday. Fill us in. What happened?
Yeah, it fell like a bit of a bombshell last night. The House had just risen for the winter break, so they're off for 6 weeks, and it was the end of the session. The Liberals were having this big Christmas party, their kind of caucus Christmas party. That's always, I've never gone to it because it's like staff only, but it's a huge, massive party that they have in every December. And just as this is kind of congregating, the news drops that Michael Maw, yet another Conservative MP, is crossing the floor. And I think this news slapped particularly hard because, barely a month ago was the last floor crossing, Nova Scotia MP Chris d'Entremont defecting to the Liberals. And through our reporting at the Star, we managed to establish that there was another Conservative MP who was very close to crossing at that point as well, who ended up not crossing for reasons that are sort of still a bit vague. He remains a Conservative, but he's kind of MIA on the Hill and said he's going to resign his seat in the spring. He almost crossed he met with Carney. He was talking with Liberals in November at the same time as D'Entremont. So flash forward to last night, and sort of the fallout of that whole political situation with D'Entremont and Matt Jenner, the other MP, had kind of calmed down, but that it's immediately resurrected with this other floor crossing now. So there's the kind of political impact of what all that means. But the most significant part of it might be that, the Carney Liberals were elected to minority government, but they were just a handful of seats short of a majority. They're now, with these floor crossings, just one seat shy of that majority. So if they can pull over the MP who, almost crossed, or somehow get some other seat somewhere else, they have a majority government. And that means, the prospect of a snap election, which a lot of people think could come as early as the spring, could conceivably be put off until 2029. So it is a significant big deal in the parliamentary math, and as well as just sort of the politics of what's going on.
Alex, you have been watching federal political developments all year. There's been a lot going on. How significant is this latest news? Where does it rank?
It's kind of hard to say, how it ranks up to stuff like, Donald Trump talking about annexing Canada and all these, the last year has been kind of wild. The downfall of Justin Trudeau, the rise of Mark Carney. This time last year, basically everybody in Canadian politics that you talked to took it as a given that the Conservatives were about to win a majority government. That didn't happen. In fact, Pierre Poilievre lost his own seat. He had to run again in one of the safest Conservative ridings in Canada, in Alberta, to get back in the House of Commons. We've seen the kind of the political drama of the floor crossings in November. Now this one, I do think it's a significant thing, especially if they can get to that majority threshold. But even if they don't, I think it's obviously a huge morale boost to the Carney Liberals, and it's obviously a blow to the morale of the Conservatives. And the last time there was a month ago with the other floor crossing and the almost floor crossing. That fueled a kind of a round of questioning and stories about, Conservative sources, talking about, is the party going in the right direction, raising questions about Poilievre's leadership style and whether he's the right person to lead them to government at this point. And so that type of attitude and those doubts and that discomfort, to the extent that they exist inside the Conservative Party, and that's always the question. We don't know the exact extent. How is this widespread or not? But this will surely fuel that, or at least fuel questions about that. So there's no way around it that this is a blow to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives at this point.
What do you make the timing of all of this, Alex? That it's happening now, just as they've dismissed for the holiday break here.
It is kind of interesting timing, and it kind of lets them go out with a bang into the holiday season, as you said in the intro. Merry Christmas to Mark Carney or whatever. But I think with the Liberals, they've obviously been having conversations with Conservatives. They've obviously been trying to get Conservatives to defect to their side. I think they would obviously love that at any time, but given the parliamentary math, there's obviously a strong motivation for them to pluck away MPs and try and get a majority. But the timing, I'm not sure. I think they would have done this whenever they could. So I'm not sure to what extent the timing was kind of planned to kind of drop like a bomb last night. But it's certainly, I was about to get on the train to go home, and it definitely blindsided me. But also, I was talking to a Conservative source last night, and they were blindsided too. Apparently, that they really, like, this MP Michael Ma, who crossed, was at their Christmas party the night before, and a new MP, but was perceived as sort of like a loyal soldier. So they were also kind of flabbergasted by the situation. It sounded like when I was talking to them last night.
So, Alex, then what does this all mean then for the Conservative Party and for leader Pierre Poilievre?
Well, like I said, I think it will fuel a new round of questions and maybe even speculation about his grip on the party. There's certainly some conservatives that are obviously not, or they harbor doubts, I guess, about what's going on, about his leadership style, about whether they need to change strategies. Potentially, they would. There's some people who don't have faith that he can lead them to power at this point. He's facing a leadership review in January, so next month. To this point, he's been widely expected to win that, and I think the big question is, what does this floor crossing do to those perceptions of his hold on the leadership, and how will it affect the result of that vote? Like, I think most people are looking for, he's expected to win, a majority. He's expected to receive support for his ongoing leadership from a majority of the people at the convention next month. But the question is by how much? So does he get 75%, 80%, 65%? And what's kind of a threshold of support that gets this monkey off his back, at least temporarily? And what's a level of support that kind of inflames doubts or creates more problems for him? So, it's definitely a big political narrative and a significant one that we'll be watching closely.
So many developments. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Of course, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Alex Ballingal is the Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. We have reached him in Ottawa. Now at 7:23, let's talk about the season of giving. As grocery prices rise and everything gets more expensive, has that changed the way that Winnipeggers donate during the holidays? Our very own Corey Funk was busy and went to the Forks yesterday to find out.
Marlene Allard. If I'm at the grocery stores and they're asking me to round up the dollars to the next dollar, I don't. But if it's on the street, like for Salvation Army and stuff like that, I will donate.
And do you have like a set amount that you will like donate in the month, or is it kind of more like kind of ad hoc?
Ad hoc. Whatever I have in my pocket or little change that I like. Right now I have a toonie, a loonie, and a quarter now. I'd put that in there right now, so I don't take out my wallet or anything like that. I just put whatever's in my pocket.
And do you find yourself donating more this time of year?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And we give donations like food and clothes and stuff like that when we have at the malls, and they have toy drives for the children and stuff like that. I tend to do that as well.
Have you found your donation habits have changed over time, especially, let's say like since the pandemic when, things have just gotten tighter for everybody?
Yes, I think they have. Yes. And I think it's just also the money thing. It's not the same as it used to be. We used to be guaranteed so much money, but now it's not the same, and as you get older, you don't get as much money as you do when you were younger. So, I find that's why.
Al Letkeman. I give regularly all year round to church and to different organizations and so forth. So, it sort of carries on as usual.
It doesn't pick up around the holidays for you?
No, I mean, I guess if I'm thinking of gift giving, but we have a set amount that we give all year long. So I don't think of it as the end of the year giving. I think we should be given all year, and that's what we do.
I know for a lot of money, a lot of people, things are tight, inflation, all these things like that. Has the amount that you give changed at all?
No, it hasn't. So my wife and I live with the belief that everything we have comes from God, and it's all a gift from Him, and we're simply stewards of that. And so we don't believe anything that we have actually belongs to us anyway. So we continue to give as we can.
My name's Jen Fukumoto. I was talking to my mom earlier. She actually does something with our kids, and we make nuts and bolts and sell jars. And each year, where the money goes is different. So trying to instill generosity in my kids. My mom helps out with that. We also do some giving through our church, and like a local food bank that we run a gym, and so you come for a class, you bring a food donation item, and it goes to the food bank.
Okay. And has it changed at all this year? I know people are talking about how money's kind of tight, or is it the same for you this year?
No, same. It's good to be generous.
That was CBC's Corey Funk at the Forks yesterday. Have you changed the way you donate during this holiday season? Give us a call and share your thoughts on our listener line 204-788-3205. Would you head to the grocery store to party on a Friday night? That's exactly what's happening at Filipino grocery store chain Seafood City. Dubbed Late Night Madness, the events have gone viral on the internet. Here in Winnipeg, the pop-ups attract hundreds of young people of all ages, to the grocery store, to a club-like atmosphere, even though not a drop of alcohol is served. CBC's Jim Agapito explores the phenomenon.
Filipinos, we love to party. Anytime we can celebrate with food, music, and family, we're in. So maybe it should be no surprise that Filipino supermarket chain Seafood City has turned grocery shopping into this. A lineup of people have crammed near the carts in the entrance, waiting to get into the store. The DJ is spinning hits as a crowd forms on the dance floor near the checkout area. Multiple food stands are set up, selling Filipino street staples like barbecue skewers and lumpia. People are dancing in between the aisles as the strobe lights illuminate them snacking, swaying to the beats, and taking selfies. Dubbed Late Night Madness, these after-hour pop-up events have been transforming Seafood City grocery stores into late-night party spots.
My name is Patricia Francisco. I am the Director of Digital Marketing and Events for Seafood City. It's just really become more than just a party, honestly, when people talk about the experience that they feel when they're in these celebrations, that it's able to introduce not only food, but even the culture of how we are as a Filipino people.
One hop this time. Right foot, 2 stumps. Left foot, 2 stumps.
Francisco estimates there's been about 40 parties like these across the US and in Canada. But it's not all about community. These pop-ups have resulted in profits and in bringing a new demographic.
So typically, if you think grocery store, it's really the older generation, of course, like the moms or the heads of the households who are taking care of cooking for the family. I think these events definitely pull like the younger crowd from like Gen Zs to even like millennials.
If you look around, a majority of the people at this party fit that age group. And there might be a reason for that.
For the typical Gen Z, they want something that's going to enrich their lives. They want an experience over, just a product.
Divya Ramachandran is a professor in the marketing department at the University of Manitoba. She says Seafood City is leveraging a growing trend of soft clubbing with the Late Night Madness pop-ups that attract a younger demographic with experiential events. Soft clubbing events have all the things a nightclub would, but without alcohol. And to millennials and Gen Zs, that matters.
They place huge importance on their health, on their physical and mental health. And given the fact that there's been sufficient anecdotal as well as scientific evidence linking, alcohol consumption to not so great mental health outcomes, I feel like there is a layer of that understanding. You have your whole clubbing experience. You still feel like you're drinking, tasty mocktails or non-alcoholic beverages, but you can still wake up the next day and do that run that you are so used to doing every other weekend.
Francisco says she's seen the soft clubbing appeal for the younger generations at the events.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting how times are changing too. Like you would only think that this would happen like at a club where everything's dark and like people don't really see your dance moves, but here sometimes it's like daylight or like really bright and you're literally dancing in the middle of a circle,
Partiers at this pop-up said no drinking was a draw.
My name is Jarrell Theodoro. I am 18. Alcohol nullifies, and when you're trying to interact, it's just like really hard. So coming here to like a non-alcohol party, it's just like really refreshing to me and to all of like my friends, because like we just enjoy partying and like celebrating.
My name is Brittany Kelloff. I don't really drink, so I kind of like the vibes. Nice to see everyone just having fun without having a drink.
Hi, my name is Sean Relev.
And you've been coming here how many times so far?
Well, this is my third, what was that? 2, 4, there'll be my 5th one technically. Well, for me, I don't really drink that much unless it's special occasions. But I mostly like music. I really love music.
My name's Aileen Hagemeister.
My name is Brendan Walker. Me and her, we do not drink or do any of that sort of stuff. And we really like free events and that.
For others, it was being near their Filipino community that drew them in.
I feel kind of welcomed here because it's my own ethnicity, it's my own family.
That comfort level is important for Gen Zs and millennials looking to socialize, according to Ramachandran. And it doesn't necessarily need to come from sharing an ethnicity, although that helps, she says. For younger generations, interacting on social media platforms or communicating through text can create inhibitions about in-person hangouts, she says. But events that focus on a niche thing can help eliminate that anxiety, giving them room to have a new experience and find something in common.
Sense of, okay, I'm safe, but I also have this opportunity to explore a little something new and try being social, IRL, in real life.
The last Late Night Madness pop-up is happening in Winnipeg, December 12th and 13th. Jim Agapito, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Looks like so much fun. Thanks to Jim for that piece. By the way, as Jim mentioned, the next Seafood City Late Night Madness event takes place this weekend. The province of Manitoba has launched a new $10 million business security rebate program. This is to help businesses recover from property damage and invest in better security. Eligible businesses can apply for up to $2,500 to cover the cost of broken doors and windows and new lighting and security cameras. The fund is retroactive to August 2024. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe said the hope is that this program will address security needs of businesses.
This rebate will help make things like glass break sensors, reinforced doors, impact-resistant glass, and motion sensors more affordable for small businesses, and allow them, those who have been the victims of crime, to repair the damage that they've seen to their property. Businesses with multiple locations can apply once for each location that they operate, with a maximum of $2,500 per location. We've allocated $10 million for this program, and we've tailored it specifically to the needs of business owners.
That was Justice Minister Matt Wiebe talking about the province's plan to launch a $10 million business security rebate. Now, some restaurants in Winnipeg are questioning the eligibility of this rebate. CBC's Bryce Hoy spoke to Biban Recchi, owner of Coffee Culture on Pembina Highway, who says her restaurant had 2 break-ins back in 2023.
We had cameras, we had all the security measures, but nothing could be done, and it could not be. And the next week, it was a bigger theft because they came and they took our safe deposit, which was like maybe around 20 kgs. So for the same person to come again, shows how bold they've become.
How do you feel about the fact that, they've retroactively put the application window for this back to August 2024? Your break-ins happened in 2023, so you kind of just miss the cut. You can't apply for that rebate. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it doesn't make me feel good at all. It doesn't. And I also think about all the other businesses, because a lot of businesses in Fort Richmond got broken in that week, in those 10 days. So clearly not helping us at all.
That was Biban Recchi from Coffee Culture Rock talking to CBC's Bryce Hoy. She says because the rebate eligibility window goes back to August 2024, she won't be able to apply for this rebate. Joining us now to talk more about what this all means for the broader sector of the industry is Chris Barnier, Vice President Central for Restaurants Canada. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Good morning.
You were at yesterday's announcement by the province. Why is the security rebate program significant for restaurant owners?
If when we have surveyed our members over the past year, 45% say that they have been directly impacted by crime in the last year. We've got 72% of our members saying that crime in the areas where they do business is going up, and they're concerned about it. When you're dealing with crime, it makes people not want to go to restaurants. It makes people not want to work in restaurants. And the damage that can be caused by crime, whether it's broken glass, stolen equipment, people running out on bills, all those things are incredibly expensive. So to get a program that is going to give $2,500 per location to small business owners who are really struggling, that is significant, and we are very thankful for the program.
The province mentioned that this fund is retroactive to August 2024. We heard from Biben Recchi, who was the owner there of Coffee Culture, that it's not going to help her out. What do you say about her and maybe other business owners who might not be eligible to get in on this rebate?
Well, I think it's unfortunate if you have an individual business owner who has a circumstance where they might not be able to get support. But what I will say overall is the response from our members has been really, really positive to this. This is the only comparable program that we're aware of is one out in BC, and it was about $3,000 per business. But if you had multiple locations, you couldn't apply for multiple locations. This one is to have it be retroactive, to have it be upwards of 75 full-time equivalent workers in each business location, and looking at a number of the things that are eligible, it really is a great program, and it is the best that we see in Canada, and we hope that other provinces replicate it.
Chris, how widespread is vandalism, break-ins, property damage among restaurants here in Canada?
Well, when we've surveyed our members, 26% would say that they've had altercations involving their staff and patrons in their restaurants. 6% have said arson. 61% have dealt with vandalism. 45% burglary. 57% theft, and it goes on and on. And drug-related incidents, harassment of the staff and patrons. It goes on, and it's an unfortunate everyday occurrence in restaurants across Canada. And when we talk to our members out in Manitoba, they're dealing with some of the worst stories and things that you hear. We've heard stories, and now this is one from Ontario, but where we had a restaurant employee walked up to someone who had wandered into a closed section of the restaurant and asked the person to move, and that staff person was assaulted with a cell phone, and the owner of the restaurant took the employee to the hospital, and in the 7 hours that they waited to get care, that person who committed the assault had been arrested and then released and was back at the restaurant 3 hours later. So it's stories like that you hear all too often, and where we have a program and a government that has heard us, that sat down with us and actually made sure that the program was going to be responsive so that restaurant locations could get it. That's a big deal for us, and we are very thankful to the government for what they announced yesterday.
Chris, any idea why we might be hearing or seeing more of these issues for businesses, for restaurants these days?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with mental health and addiction issues, and a lot of it has to do with the same people who are coming back and causing problems over and over again. So, we don't pretend to be experts on bail reform or criminology, but what we do know is that a lot of these incidents is the same people over and over again, and where we can get help to deal with that recidivism side, that's not an easy, quick fix. And certainly not something that is going to be solved by a crime grant program. But while we're still dealing with those issues, to have money that's going to help restaurant owners and other business owners make their businesses a little more secure, deal with the expensive cost of damages, and to help them take action to protect their employees and to protect their patrons, that's a big deal for us, and one that we're really, really happy about and thankful for.
We have about 30 seconds left here, Chris, but finally I want to ask you, what are some longer-term strategies do you think that businesses need here to protect themselves?
Well, there's different things that we're looking at, whether it is training for staff on dealing with incidents, and certainly there are other things that we're pursuing in that area. We welcome any investment in policing and making sure, because that is as tough a job as you're going to get in policing, and we are very supportive of anything that helps them. Certainly, we are really interested in seeing the things the governments are doing around bail reform and dealing with recidivism, and certainly all, as the Premier and others talk about, the root causes of crime. So anything that tackles mental health and addiction and that helps people who are struggling and who are committing crimes to fuel, call it addictions or whatever it might be, all those things are welcome.
Chris, I really do appreciate you joining us this morning here on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Chris Barnier is Vice President Central for Restaurants Canada. The province of Manitoba has launched a new $10 million business security rebate program. As temperatures drop and the city cracks down on encampments with its new bylaw, more people are seeking shelter wherever they can, inside lobbies, condo buildings, even bank entrances. Avram Shirak is a spokesperson for the Manitoba Professional Property Managers Association and told us that landlords are increasingly worried about people seeking refuge inside condo buildings, sleeping or spending time in lobbies and common areas during the winter months.
We do discuss this issue regularly, the issue of indigents coming into buildings. Occasionally they become really problematic. Often they just want to sleep. But some of them, especially if they're on substances, can be difficult to deal with, and it can be hard to get the police there if they're being difficult to deal with. So yes, we do discuss it. We've come up with a variety of ways to deal with it. My company, as an example, the one I work for, we lock the exterior door of the foyer later in the evening. So overnight, if you're getting a pizza delivery at 2 a.m, as an example, the pizza guy's going to have to phone you and you're going to come down and get it because the intercom is not accessible late at night.
Marion Willis from St. Boniface Streetlink says she has been also receiving numerous complaints about this and joins me now via Zoom. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Marion.
Good morning.
What kind of complaints are you hearing?
We've had a number of calls to our outreach line from credit unions and banks asking if we can come and remove people from the ATM vestibules. We had a call the other day from Goulet Manor, so from different buildings over here, complaining that there are people hanging out in the hallways and wondering if we can come and help move people along. So, unfortunately, this is what can be expected when the city implements a ban, but actually doesn't have a plan to manage what the impacts are going to be to those most affected, which will be those that are living unsheltered.
Marion, so you said that this is a glimpse of what's to come. How do you know that?
Well, we do know that. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years. Anybody who does outreach knows that, in fact, we should all understand that, the people who are struggling with homelessness are human beings like the rest of us. They have the same basic needs as the rest of us. They all seek shelter. They all seek safety and warmth and food and clothing and all of those things. While I do not support encampment living, I don't think it's good for anybody. I certainly don't support the ban in its current form either, because it's basically taking people who are already living in the margins of life and pushing them even further into the margins. So without their encampments, that was their shelter and where they kept their personal possessions. Once that is taken away, basically you have people out there now, and it's survival of the fittest, and those folks will do whatever they have to do to survive.
Now, Marion, the encampment bylaws have been in place for about a month now. What are you hearing from the people that you directly help about the impact that this is having on them?
Well, the impact's huge. I mean, fortunately, we proactively planned for this. And so we've housed upwards of 30 people since mid-November. We've been working to secure housing through the private sector, which is where you will find housing to house people. But it is really impactful. I mean, people's encampments come down. They don't have the ability to pack up their possessions tote them along with them somewhere, they basically lose everything that is important to them. What appears to be garbage to somebody else is often, those are possessions that are valued by the person that they belong to. So, I mean, it's horrible. And the other thing I'll say about this, is that we've had spring, we've had summer, we've had fall, to address the challenges with encampments. But once again, here we are, the snow is falling, the temperature is dropping. It's Christmas in a few weeks, and I have to wonder where the mercy is in all of this
Do you
during
think
this Christian holiday. I mean, yeah, and I think the city and others probably should be concerned about liabilities here because this encampment ban is actually pushing people into a state of really feeling quite desperate.
are those people that are getting pushed out, Marion, are they coming to you? Are they coming to St. Boniface Street Links?
They are. I think the greatest humanity I've seen in all of this has been from the community support unit of Winnipeg Police Service that actually has been picking up people, driving them over to 604 St. Mary's, pleading with us to help get these folks housed. And we have housed every person that they brought to us. People are walking over. They're coming over to 604 St. Mary's any way they can get there because word on the street is that if you want to get housed, you're going to have to go to St. Boniface Street Links on St. Mary's Road.
I want to ask you this too. Do you think we're only at the start here of winter? We've got January, February to still go. Is our city are there the shelter system, is it set up to handle the amount of people that could possibly be coming in here, even though we're just at the start of winter?
Well, no. I mean, again, the city is executing a ban with no plan in place to support that ban. And so a plan would have meant, that Your Way Home would have assigned so many housing units. We work with the private sector. We would have assigned housing units, and Homelessness Winnipeg. They have their strategy. A plan would have seen a shared governance model that brought all of us together to identify resources that would move people from encampments into housing. We haven't done that. We've just taken away everybody's home. And for all intents and purposes, those are people's homes, whether we like it or not. I expect to see that we haven't improved public safety issues by doing this. We've enhanced public safety issues. I think that the worst is yet to come. And no, we haven't planned.
So what,
this at all.
in your opinion, Marion, what needs to happen now to give the support that's needed this winter?
Well, I think that every organization should be out there and should be working with every single person in an encampment to link them to income supports and find housing. I think for now, I know that, the Your Way Home plan, looks for deeply affordable housing, is waiting for new builds to come online. You know what? We need to use what exists. And there is housing in the private sector. The province and the city both need to provide some incentives to bring a greater response from the private sector, because the private sector does have housing and they will house, if there's some supports, to address some of the challenges of housing high-risk populations. I can tell you that we currently have vacancies within our housing network. So there's housing out there. The other piece of this, and I'm going to say this, is that yesterday we were brought a senior woman who's been living in her car for a whole month. She's not a senior woman who was born into poverty. Circumstances caused her to lose her housing. She's a senior in her car for a whole month. She was brought to us. She was also an Indigenous woman. She was brought to us because she didn't meet anybody's criteria to be housed within current programs. She hadn't been homeless for 6 of the last 12 months. There's so much that needs to change here. We have a crisis. We're a city that is a part of a national crisis, the drug use epidemic, the housing crisis, mental health, all the justice issues are all interrelated. Nationally, we need a strategy to address this. The provinces cannot do this on their own, but we should all feel obligated to be out there and to be connecting with every single person that is living unsheltered, do the work to link them to income supports, and do the work to find them housing, because there is a way to house people. It might not be subsidized housing, might not be deeply affordable housing, but it's housing, and it's a whole lot safer for everybody. And much more humane than leaving people outside. These are not animals, these are human beings. As we enter this Christmas season, I ask, every level of government, where's the charity in the season? Where's the mercy?
Marion, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Marion Willis from Street Boniface Streetlinks. Santa joins us now from Thompson. Hi, Santa.
Ho, 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 ho. Good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning. 16 First Nations communities in 1 week so far. You sound very busy, Santa. How is it going so far?
It has been fabulous. I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it is to meet all of the little boys and girls here in northern Manitoba. And I've even had a chance to visit a few of the personal care homes in those remote communities.
Oh, that's so lovely. How many First Nations do you plan to visit, Santa?
We are working to try and get to 25.
Oh, wow. So you have 7 more to go. Now, you visit all houses on Christmas Eve. Why are you visiting Manitoba's First Nations communities now?
Well, a lot of it, Marjorie, I have cousins that help out at the malls and places like that in Winnipeg. And little boys and girls get a chance to have their photo taken with Santa. And we don't have that opportunity in northern remote communities. It is very hard for these children to get out and see Santa. So MKO Grand Chief Satie said, would I join him to visit his children? And here we are.
And what has it meant to the children to get a visit from Santa?
It's been a very special time. They run and greet you with hugs and kisses and stories and letters. I think it does more for Santa than it does for the children.
Oh, it's been a really tough year for a lot of children up north, given what's happened with the wildfires. What does it mean to be able to give this to them after what's been a very challenging year?
I think it's an opportunity for them to return to life as they normally would have, right after a summer of being uprooted.
Now, Special Elf filled me in and said that you made a special visit to Northlands, Dene First Nation. Tell me more about that experience. What was that like?
It's as close as we get to Santa being home.
And it must have felt good to be close to home for you.
It really did. You see some of the reindeer cousins roaming around, and the children are excited. They were running to meet me as I was stepping off the plane.
Santa, I understand there was a slight delay yesterday. What happened?
Unfortunately, the reindeer themselves are busy resting up and getting ready for the big night. So my friends from Perimeter Airlines, Keewatin Air, and Custom Helicopters have been helping to move me around. And yesterday had very heavy snow, and Rudolph in a helicopter is not the same as Rudolph pulling a sleigh. So we had to pull the plug on yesterday.
Santa, I know you're very busy, but where are you headed off to next?
We're actually, as soon as I'm done here, Marjorie, I'm heading for the airport, and we'll be in the air on the way to Moose Lake, and then Easterville and Grand Rapids today.
Well, Santa, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us here on the show today. And happy holidays to you.
Merry Christmas and thanks for staying on the good little girls list, Marjorie.
Bye, Santa.
Bye-bye.
That was Santa Claus talking to us from northern Manitoba. He's visiting First Nations communities around the region. As you heard, there's been a bit of a change in schedule. Visit Manitoba Kiwatinawi Ogimakinak's Facebook page to see where Santa is headed to next.